Under the glaring lights of Jimmy Kimmel Live, an unthinkable confrontation erupted. Bruce Springsteen, the legendary boss, with his anthems of life, stepped into the realm of glitzy entertainment. But the authenticity and timeless principles of the artist could not bow to fleeting amusement. The anticipated interview turned into a subtle battle between a profound musical legacy and the shallowness of television. Before millions of watching eyes, Springsteen delivered a fatal blow to vanity, choosing dignity over theatrics, leaving an echoing void forever in late-night history. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss the latest stories. Bruce Springsteen strode slowly under the radiant stage lights, not overly blinding, but enough to embrace the figure so familiar to audiences. He approached to shake Jimmy Kimmel's hand, a warm, steady grip, then quietly sat down. Jimmy Kimmel flashed his signature smile, a mischievous glint in his eyes sparking excitement. He quickly opened with Bruce, "It's such an honor to have you here today." His voice was lively, tinged with teasing. "You know, people still talk about your marathon performances, lasting 4 hours, full of energy, no breaks, and I keep wondering, at this age, how do you keep that fire burning? Is it a strict diet, or do you have some secret energy drink you haven't shared with anyone?" Jimmy burst into laughter, turning to the audience, as if expecting a wave of chuckles in return. Laughter erupted, but not everyone joined in. Bruce Springsteen remained utterly unshaken. His eyes were deep, not harsh, but heavy with weight. He looked straight at Jimmy. His voice rang out, low and clear, carrying a quiet but certain calm. "Jimmy," he said, each word carefully measured, "those performances aren't a test of physical endurance that I need energy drinks or some diet for. It's a commitment. It's a covenant between me and the people who've given their lives to my music, who've put their faith in my songs." Jimmy nodded rapidly, his smile intact, but his eyes betraying a hint of unease. He sensed the tension rising, an unusual current unlike his typical banter. Quickly, he glanced at his cue cards, then turned back to Springsteen, with a brighter tone, trying to dispel the weight that had settled. "Great, Bruce. Always profound words from you. Very, very inspiring. Speaking of journeys, and the path of a legendary artist like you, I heard you still ride your motorcycle across the country. Is that how you find inspiration for those timeless rock and roll songs? Got any funny stories from those trips, like running into a group of crazy fans, or being mistaken for some character from an old Western movie?" Jimmy laughed loudly, gesturing for the audience to join in, resulting in a forced, unnatural chuckle. Bruce Springsteen sat there, strikingly still. The faint smile on his lips vanished, replaced by a deep, unwavering gaze. His eyes locked onto Jimmy, unblinking, as if peering through the stage's glamour. His voice was warm, clear, but carried a chilling calm, each word carved into the air. "Jimmy, I ride my motorcycle. I pass through small towns. I meet working people, factory workers, who've lost their jobs, farmers struggling to hold on to their ancestors' land. I'm not looking for funny stories to tell on TV. I'm searching for truth. I'm searching for faces, stories, heartbeats that my music can echo. Those rides aren't for entertainment. They're for connection. To remind myself who I sing for, and why. It's not a segment for ratings, Jimmy. It's a part of life, the lifeblood of the lyrics you just praised." Jimmy shifted uncomfortably, his smile stiffening. He felt the tension growing, but tried to steer things his way. "Oh, I get it. Very profound, Bruce. Truly a deep artist." Jimmy forced a laugh, but his eyes betrayed clear discomfort. He quickly scanned his cue cards, searching for an escape, a story to pull things back to familiar territory. "But Bruce, sometimes we need a little lightness, right? Life's heavy enough. I heard a story about your early days, when the E Street Band played small bars on the Jersey Shore. They say one time, you jumped on a table and turned the whole bar into an impromptu dance floor. A wild night that had the cops stepping in. Is that true? Sounds pretty rock and roll. Pretty the boss, right?" The audience began to murmur with laughter, the usual liveliness returning. Bruce Springsteen stayed in place, his eyes narrowing slightly, a familiar expression, when he's deep in thought, now tinged with a sharp edge. He shook his head firmly, as if brushing off dust. "I've played a lot of small bars, Jimmy. I've sweated on those stages, from the dingiest dives to packed clubs. Every note, every lyric was pure honesty. He paused, his voice lowering, heavy with weight, as if each word was forged from experience. And I don't recall ever jumping on a table to turn it into an impromptu dance floor, as you described, or any night where the cops had to step in. Because of our wildness, stories spun for entertainment. They might be fun, they might spark curiosity, but they're not the truth. And for me, Jimmy, the truth is everything. It's the foundation of my music. It's the only thing I'm committed to bringing to the people who've trusted me, who've spent their time and money to hear me sing. Silence enveloped the studio, broken only by faint murmurs like an undercurrent beneath the floor. Jimmy Kimmel felt the weight pressing down. His familiar smile grew rigid, an awkward grimace. He was used to controlling every conversation, turning guests into part of the performance. But Bruce Springsteen was no ordinary guest. The man across from him was an icon, a living principle. Jimmy knew he needed something bold, a moment to break Springsteen's solemnity, and pull him back into the game. He glanced at the wings, where producers were frantically signaling, their eyes filled with worry and urgency. Ratings were stalling. They needed a viral moment, something to flood social media, and Jimmy, trained to salvage any situation, decided to take a gamble. He flashed an overly bright, somewhat forced smile, then reached under the desk. The audience murmured curiously, unsure of what Jimmy was up to. When he pulled his hand up, it wasn't a standard microphone, but a small ukulele, adorned with a garish pink toy microphone. The instrument looked absurd, completely out of place on the stage of a rock legend. The audience giggled, some catching Jimmy's intent. "Come on, Bruce," Jimmy said, his voice pleading, but laced with challenge. "We've got a little challenge for you. I know you're a master of rock and roll, an untouchable monument of epic ballads and fiery anthems. But can you have a little fun with this TikTok hit that's taking the world by storm? Just a few seconds, for kicks." The audience is dying to see a different side, a spontaneous, lovable Bruce Springsteen. Jimmy waved the ukulele toward Springsteen, eyes gleaming with hope for a viral moment to save the show. He even hummed a few playful notes of the TikTok song, trying to create a lighthearted vibe. Bruce Springsteen's face froze. The last trace of a smile vanished, like a flame snuffed out. He didn't move. He looked at the pink ukulele in Jimmy's hand, then straight into the host's eyes. His gaze held no fiery anger, but a profound disappointment, a cold disdain, as if looking at a misbehaving child. His voice dropped, sharp but not shouting, like a steel blade cutting through the thick air. "Put that down, Jimmy." Each word was deliberate, clear, echoing through the now silent studio. Even the ventilation seemed to stop. The audience held its breath. The words weren't loud, but their weight froze every movement. "I didn't come here to be a clown," Bruce continued, his voice like a symphony rising from his soul, powerful and resonant. "I didn't come here to lip-sync meaningless tunes. I've spent my life learning to write songs, play instruments, and sing real stories with my own voice. My songs, they're prayers, they're cries, they're the hopes of millions. People who've trusted me, who found themselves in my lyrics." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes heavy with the weight of a life's trials. "Do you think they want to see me pick up that thing and make a fool of myself? Do you think that's how I respect my music and the people who've put their faith in me?" Bruce didn't give Jimmy a chance to respond. He pressed on. "Jimmy, you might have misunderstood. I'm Bruce Springsteen. I'm the guy who sung about empty streets, broken dreams, the endless struggles of the working class. I'm the guy who's burned it all out on stage with the E Street Band for decades, with sweat and tears, not with scripted stunts or cheap gags." He emphasized each word, every one like a boulder set in place. "My music is the voice of truth. It's not a toy, and I don't perform circus acts." The phrase circus acts hung in the air, a verdict on the entire entertainment industry Jimmy represented. The studio was utterly silent. Jimmy Kimmel stood frozen, ukulele still in hand, his smile shattered, revealing panic. He stared at Bruce Springsteen, a legend sitting there, asserting his dignity with terrifying calm. Jimmy was used to guests playing along, but Bruce Springsteen was no one else. Behind the scenes, Stacy, Springsteen's assistant, clenched her fists. Clear "I told you so" on her face. She'd warned them. Producers in the control room were shouting. Phones ringing. But no one dared act immediately. Ratings were spiking. But a crisis was unfolding. Jimmy Kimmel had pushed too far. And he was about to pay for his disrespect. Jimmy's eyes flicked to a side monitor, seeing ratings dance wildly. But in that moment, he felt only confusion and rising anger. This wasn't just a clash between two men. It was a clash of two worldviews. The studio air grew thick, suffocating. The pink ukulele in Jimmy Kimmel's hand looked ridiculous, out of place. His familiar smile was gone, replaced by a pale, panicked, and angry expression. He stared at Bruce Springsteen, who sat still and regal, like an unyielding mountain. Springsteen's words, "I don't perform circus acts," echoed like a judgment in the silent space. Jimmy swallowed hard, his throat dry. He tried to regain composure, a forced smile reappearing. Crooked. "Come on, Bruce," he said, his voice tinged with pleading, but still grasping for control. "It's just entertainment. We just wanted to bring a little joy to the audience, make the show a bit lively. Everyone loves you, and they want to see you relax a bit, a fun side. It's live TV. You know sometimes you need unexpected moments to connect." Jimmy turned to the audience, seeking support, but many now looked at him with judgment, especially Springsteen's loyal fans. Bruce Springsteen took a deep breath. The cold calm was gone, replaced by a fire in his eyes, not personal anger, but the fire of conviction and deep disappointment. He looked straight at Jimmy, unflinching, his voice not shouting but resonating louder, more commanding, as if addressing the entire room, not just Jimmy. "Entertainment," Springsteen said, each word forged from decades of dedication. "You call this entertainment, Jimmy? Turning an artist who's given his life to honest music into a cheap entertainer on your stage. Decades of work, hundreds of songs written with blood and tears, thousands of nights on dusty roads, under dim bar lights, or in packed stadiums. Not to end up dancing with a toy guitar and lip-syncing meaningless tunes for what you call an unexpected moment." He stressed each word, each one laced with indignation. "I'm the guy who's sung about the pain of workers, about the broken American dream, about the fight to survive. My music is the voice of the voiceless. It's where people find solace, strength, hope. Do you think those people, who've come to me with their hearts and souls, want to see me become a lovable clown on a TV screen?" Springsteen rested one hand on his knee, his eyes sharp as a blade. "You say connect, Jimmy? Connection isn't cheap gags, or staged funny stories. Connection is truth. Connection is when I stand on stage, look into their eyes, and they know I'm singing about their lives, their struggles. That's connection. That's the value of music. And you, your show, are trying to turn that into something else, something hollow, a product to consume and forget." Springsteen's words crashed like powerful waves, tearing through Jimmy's entertainment facade. Jimmy's face paled. He no longer held his confident, witty demeanor. He wanted to speak, but no words came. He glanced at the producers frantically signaling cut to commercial, but their shouts were drowned by the explosion unfolding on stage. And then the inevitable happened. The audience, silent witnesses to the escalating tension, erupted. Not in laughter, but in thunderous applause, chants of "Boss, boss," shaking the studio. They stood, one by one, like a tidal wave of support. They understood. They felt Bruce's truth, Jimmy's helplessness, and shallowness. The chants and applause drowned out all else. Jimmy tried to raise a hand, signaling for calm, but it was futile. The cheers only grew louder, a clear affirmation of whose side they were on. Backstage pressure hit its peak. Producers and crew shouted into headsets, demanding a cut to commercials, anything to stop this nightmare. But it was too late. Cameras kept rolling, capturing Jimmy's strained face and Springsteen's commanding presence, documenting an unrelenting confrontation. Bruce Springsteen, with his steadfast conviction, didn't just refuse Jimmy's circus act, he turned Jimmy's stage into a platform to defend the true value of art. This was no longer an interview, it was a manifesto. Sweat beaded on Jimmy's forehead. He knew he'd lost this battle publicly, and disastrously. This wasn't a night he could spin into a funny segment for later. This was a PR disaster. Okay, Jimmy tried to say, his voice faltering in the noise. He even forced a laugh, devoid of joy. I get it, Bruce. You don't like the ukulele. I'm sorry. Just a joke. Really, a misunderstanding. Can we move past this and keep going? We've still got so much to talk about. Your incredible career, your tours. I think we started off a bit tense. But we're professionals, right? Jimmy's words were a plea, laced with veiled anger at being cornered. He tried to downplay Springsteen's profound rebuke as a small tension that professionals could overlook. But Bruce Springsteen never overlooked the truth. He sat steady, his unwavering gaze fixed on Jimmy, unmoved by the weak excuses. Professional, Bruce said, his voice still calm, but carrying immense power, like an unchangeable verdict. He gave a slight, not a smile, but a look of utter disappointment. Jimmy, professional in my world isn't about following a script or lowering my worth to amuse someone. Professional is respect. Respect for the music, the audience, and myself. And then, with a decisive motion, Bruce Springsteen slowly stood up. The action was neither rushed nor furious, but full of authority, like a king rising from his throne. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath with each of his movements. Jimmy Kimmel flinched, stepping back, the ukulele nearly slipping from his hand. I didn't come here to dance for you, Springsteen said, taking a short step toward Jimmy. The distance between them now closer, creating an invisible pressure. I came here because I chose to. I came to share my music, my stories, with people who want to hear the truth, not to become a prop in your viral segment. He looked deep into Jimmy's eyes, a direct and uncompromising gaze. I've said what I needed to say. Immediately, from the wings, two large security guards in black suits strode quickly toward the stage. Jimmy Kimmel, his face still pale, had signaled them. Clearly he wanted to end this situation at all costs. The audience began to murmur, some craning to see what was happening. The two guards approached Bruce Springsteen, one touching his earpiece, preparing to intervene. But Bruce, with a simple yet commanding gesture, raised his left hand, palm open toward them. It wasn't a challenge or a command, but a calm gesture saying, "Don't come closer." Yet both guards hesitated, wary of the presence of a legend. Perhaps they too felt the weight of the moment. Bruce Springsteen turned his head, locking eyes with the main camera, broadcasting his image live to millions. His gaze was no longer one of personal disappointment, but a powerful message to the world. The truth doesn't need gimmicks, Springsteen declared, his voice resounding with conviction, like a prophetic proclamation. The truth stands on its own, and if you can't handle it, that's not my fault. With those words, Bruce Springsteen turned, saying nothing more. He began walking slowly toward the wings, leaving the stage. Each step carried a sense of pride and defiance, a flat refusal of the values the show represented. The audience erupted, their applause and cheers thundering in support, louder than ever. They had witnessed a historic moment, where truth and dignity triumphed over glitzy performance. Jimmy Kimmel stood alone on the vast stage, clutching the hated pink ukulele, his face pale and utterly stunned. The band tried to strike up a tune to fill the void, but they seemed too shocked, and the music sounded hollow, weak in the space, still echoing with cheers for Bruce Springsteen. The commercial break flashed on, but the damage was done. The show had been torn apart before millions of viewers. As Bruce Springsteen turned away, his steps were slow, unhurried, but each carried an invisible weight. These weren't the steps of someone chased from an unwelcoming place, but the stride of a king abandoning a kingdom that no longer respected his values. The stage lights, once blinding, now seemed to yield their glow to the resolute aura emanating from him. He didn't glance back at Jimmy Kimmel, frozen on stage, nor at the panicked faces of the production crew in the wings. His focus, it seemed, was solely on the path ahead, the path of integrity and freedom. The chants of "Boss, Boss," from the audience exploded, stronger than ever, following his every step, like a heroic anthem of farewell. The applause thundered relentlessly, mixed with whistles and shouts of his name. Many fans stood, raising fists, not just supporting an artist, but honoring a man who dared to speak the truth. standing firm against the pressures of a calculated entertainment industry. Each sound was like a hammer blow to Jimmy Kimmel's arrogance and the show's shallowness. Jimmy Kimmel remained stunned on stage, the pink ukulele still in hand, now looking like a pathetic joke. His face was pale, contorted under the stage lights. He tried to force a smile, waving to quiet the audience, or at least let the band play something to fill the deadly silence. But it was futile. The cheers for Springsteen were too loud, too fierce, swallowing every effort. The band, seemingly in shock, played weak, discordant notes that faded quickly, unable to muster any professionalism to salvage the situation. In the wings, Stacy, Springsteen's assistant, hurried forward. She saw Bruce's astonishingly calm expression, a serenity in stark contrast to the storm that had just swept the stage. "You okay, Bruce?" she whispered, concern clear in her eyes. Springsteen gave a slight nod, a spark flashing in his deep eyes. "I've never been better, Stacy," he replied, his voice warm, but still echoing the strength of his earlier declaration. "We got everything we need? Are the kids in the band ready?" Maggie nodded rapidly, almost tearful with relief and pride. "Everything's ready, Bruce. The car's waiting." He said nothing more. He cast a fleeting glance at the panicked faces of the producers huddled backstage, still shouting into their headsets. A look not of anger or contempt, but a confirmation that he'd seen them and made his choice. With a gentle but firm gesture, Bruce Springsteen removed his earpiece, placing it carefully on the table, as if it were a worthless trinket. In that moment, he shed every chain of obligation, commercial expectation, and false professionalism. He was no longer a star bound by contracts or ratings. He was simply Bruce Springsteen, the true artist of the streets, of songs echoing truth. He walked out of the studio, the backstage door closing softly behind him, but to those left in the studio, the sound was like a thunderclap, signaling the end of an era, and the start of a new debate. Jimmy Kimmel and his team were left in chaos, with the audience's applause still echoing, as a relentless reminder of their failure. The commercial break flashed on, a belated rescue, but the damage was irreparable. The show had been ripped apart before millions, and the image of a legend striding out, carrying his dignity and truth, endured. As the backstage door closed behind Bruce Springsteen, a media storm erupted. Not hours later, but instantly, the internet exploded. Clips of the tense confrontation and Springsteen's exit spread at lightning speed across every social media platform. Hashtags like #The Boss Walks Out, #Springsteen Stands Tall, and #Truth Over Ratings quickly dominated global trends, becoming the focal point of discussions from New York to Los Angeles, and even reaching small cafes in Vietnam, where fans followed every development. Public opinion split sharply, but the balance tipped heavily in Springsteen's favor. A small group, mostly Jimmy Kimmel fans or those who believed entertainment trumped all, criticized Springsteen as arrogant, unprofessional, or humorless. They argued he overreacted, turning a harmless entertainment show into a political platform. "Grumpy old man," one ex-formerly Twitter comment read. "It was just a joke. Why make a big deal?" But those voices were swiftly drowned by a massive wave of support for the boss. Millions of Springsteen's loyal fans, who'd followed him for decades, felt vindicated. They hailed him as the last artist with a conscience, an icon of integrity, and a hero who speaks truth in a world full of lies. Comments like, "He spoke for us," and "This is the boss we know," never compromising, flooded online platforms. Music critics and cultural analysts quickly offered deep insights. They didn't see this as a mere incident, but a moment redefining the boundary between true art and the entertainment industry. Springsteen didn't just walk off a show, he declared war, a New York Times editorial stated. He reminded us of an artist's responsibility, and the true value of music, which we've forgotten in the storm of views and fleeting fame. Other prominent artists, from peers to younger generations, publicly backed Springsteen. Steven Van Zandt, his longtime friend and E Street Band member, posted proudly, "That's Bruce, always standing for truth, no matter the cost. Proud of you, boss." A rising young singer shared, "This moment is a lesson for everyone in the industry. Art isn't a toy." Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel and his team faced an unprecedented PR crisis. Calls poured in from the network and sponsors, demanding explanations and damage control. Jimmy Kimmel Live became the subject of mockery and harsh critiques for its disrespect and shallowness. The show's ratings may have spiked in the moment, but Kimmel's reputation took a severe hit. He posted a vague apology on social media, calling the incident an unfortunate misunderstanding and a difference in humor styles, but it was seen as insincere, fueling public anger further. The image of Jimmy Kimmel standing alone on an empty stage, pink ukulele in hand, became a symbol of the failure of superficial entertainment. Conversely, the image of Bruce Springsteen striding out, backed by roaring support, became a powerful affirmation of truth and personal dignity. The aftermath wasn't just a TV scandal, it was a cultural debate about the nature of art, entertainment and media responsibility, in a world losing authenticity. The incident on Jimmy Kimmel Live wasn't just a TV mishap or a fleeting viral clip. It became a milestone, a wake-up call echoing through the entertainment industry, and beyond into pop culture. Bruce Springsteen, with a decisive and dignified act, didn't just refuse to play a clown, he drew a clear line between true art and the vanity of market-driven entertainment. The lesson from that night is the clearest testament to the power of truth. In a world where everything can be distorted, staged or viralized, for commercial gain, Springsteen's action was a lightning bolt against falsehood. He reminded millions that some values can't be bought, warped or turned into a joke. It's about respect for artistic labor, the message an artist conveys, and most importantly, respect for the audience, those who truly want to listen, not just be shallowly entertained. The event cemented Bruce Springsteen's status as an unshakable icon of integrity and conviction. He didn't need TV's spotlight to shine. He was the light. His action wasn't a hot-headed outburst, but the result of decades living and dedicating himself to his beliefs. For fans, it was a moment affirming everything they admired: his resilience, loyalty to his roots, and unwavering faith in music's power to tell true human stories. Springsteen proved an artist can stand at the pinnacle without compromising for lesser values. The lasting impact on the entertainment industry is undeniable. Producers, hosts and guest stars had to rethink their interactions. The pressure for viral moments persists. But there's a new caution. No one wants to be the next Jimmy Kimmel, who pushed a legend to the limit and paid with his reputation. The event sparked a vital dialogue about media's responsibility to present art and artists respectfully, not as tools for ratings. The final message Bruce Springsteen left wasn't just for Jimmy Kimmel or the entertainment industry, but for all of us. In a world rife with falsehoods, truth holds the greatest power. It may not always be comfortable or entertaining, as we want, but it's the foundation of every genuine connection, every lasting value. Springsteen didn't just leave a studio. He drew a clear line declaring that sincerity, courage and dignity endure, when the stage lights fade and meaningless laughter dissipates. Since that night, Bruce Springsteen has continued his journey. He still tours the world with the E Street Band, bringing his anthems to millions of waiting hearts. He still writes music, tells stories and remains the boss for workers, lost souls and dreams that never fade. His music still resonates, truer and stronger than ever, like an unending echo of truth in a chaotic world, and the story of the night he walked off Jimmy Kimmel Live will be retold forever, not as a scandal, but as an enduring testament to the dignity of a true artist. The story of Bruce Springsteen walking off the Jimmy Kimmel Live stage isn't just a dramatic TV moment, but a sharp reflection of the pressures and values at play in American society today. In an era of short attention spans and viral culture, where everything is measured by views and shares, this story offers profound lessons applicable to every American's life. Look at Jimmy Kimmel, a professional host, emblematic of modern media culture. He was pressured to create engaging content, viral moments at all costs, even if it meant diminishing a guest's dignity, or turning a legend like Springsteen into a clown with a pink ukulele. In that moment, Jimmy represented the broader voice of an American society, caught in the whirlwind of instant fame and profit. The lesson here is don't let external pressures define your core values. In work, relationships, or even on social media, We often face the temptation to please the crowd or create a buzz instead of staying true to ourselves. Jimmy failed because he tried to force Springsteen into a mold that wasn't his, measuring success by laughter and shares rather than truth. In contrast, Bruce Springsteen embodies integrity and conviction, core values that built America. He didn't get swept up in viral culture. He didn't need to dance for anyone. When Jimmy asked about the fire at his age, Springsteen declared it was a commitment, a covenant with his audience, not an energy drink trick. When Jimmy pushed for fabricated funny anecdotes, Springsteen insisted on truth and connection. The pink ukulele symbolized disrespect for his values, and his response, "I don't perform circus acts," was a powerful declaration of dignity. Protect your integrity and core values at all costs. In American society, where individuality is celebrated, staying true to your principles and authenticity is vital. Whether facing workplace pressures, societal expectations, or material temptations, staying honest with yourself and your values earns lasting respect, something money or fleeting fame can't buy. Be like Springsteen, daring to walk away when the environment no longer aligns with your principles, because truth and personal dignity are the greatest legacy you can build. If this story of integrity and courage has touched your heart, don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button to catch more in-depth analyses of history-making moments. Thank you for seeking the truth with us, and we'll see you in the next video.